As they sail across the ocean, the druid decides to poke around for a snack. She comes across a barrel that has been exposed to the elements, and the fruit inside is moldy. The druid player, a high schooler who's taking biology classes, asks the DM, "Can I take some of the fruit anyway?" Seems innocent enough. Fast forward to them arriving in the next port town, and the druid player once again asks for something. This time, it's a microscope. Now, the campaign has an element of science in it. Reasonably, there'd be a microscope around, right? As she peers through the microscope at the mold, she turns to her DM and asks, "Is there any bacteria that looks like paintbrushes?" Now at this point, some people might be wondering, what exactly are you doing? But her DM was maybe a bit younger and a bit newer to the game, but was aware of the advice that we all share among ourselves to show that we know how to run a good game. Never say no to your players. So roll for it. And as so often happens during these sorts of stories, a natural 20 comes up. Well, yeah, I guess that means there is some bacteria that looks like paintbrushes. The druid player excitedly proclaims, "I have discovered penicillin." She goes on to tell her friends, family, and the internet about how clever she was, and how great her die roll was, and how she had ruined her DM's plans, and how she was the bane of her DM. This is a tale adapted from a story I saw on TikTok. I don't remember the creator, but I do remember the comments. There were over a dozen commenters berating her for metagaming. She was trying to defend herself because she knows the mantra, if you metagame, you are bad at the game. Whether or not you care about the metagaming, I think there's two other points that can be discussed from this story. First, there's a player type that I want to talk about, the Ruiner. Next, scientific discovery. So, what is a Ruiner? A Ruiner is a player archetype that, when they sit down at the table, they have brought the intention to win. Now, they don't want to beat the monsters or the BBEG. Well, yeah, they obviously want to beat the monsters. No, they're more interested in beating the DM. A Ruiner is someone who looks at the encounter that the DM has put in front of them and says, "You are not clever enough, you are not creative enough, you are not original enough to stand against me." That is a cool line for a fighter to say as he stands over the dead body of an evil king. It's not a great approach to friendship. This archetype is only satisfied when another player, and let's remember that the DM is a player, has a look of disappointment on their face and is tearing up a character sheet. Now, what I have just described is the pinnacle, the archetype, the meme that we all reference. Very few people sit down at the table with this actual mentality. If they did, that'd be a very toxic person and we would not want to play D&D with them. Yet still, there are plenty of us in our recanting of our D&D tales that use phrases like, "I ruined my DM's plans." "My DM hates me because I ruined his plans." Or, "My DM wasn't prepared for what I had up my sleeve." These sorts of phrases are the antithesis of a collaborative game. It goes against what the D&D community is trying to cultivate. Which is a long way of saying it doesn't feel great when somebody boasts about being better at a collaborative game. Not a lot of people are going to want to continue playing a game of basketball with somebody who yells in your face every time they block you or score a shot. So why would we keep playing D&D with a player who does that when they defeat our dragon by not playing the game, but exploiting a loophole or coming up with secret plans? Don't get me wrong, the dragon was put there for you to defeat, but through things like effort, friendship, and drama. This isn't to say that DMs are perfect and won't do this as well. In fact, they're just as susceptible. But that's a topic for a different video. Let's talk about putting some science into our fantasy world. Scientific discovery is a tough problem to design into a singular instance. The example in the story, the Discovery Penicillin, happened when scientist Alexander Fleming came back from a 2-week vacation to find that he had left some bacteria colonies in petri dishes out, and mold had begun to grow on them. When he examined it under a microscope, he saw that in a certain radius around the mold, the bacteria wouldn't grow. This led him to let the mold grow on other bacterial colonies, and he saw that it was effective against multiple strains. He then set his lab assistants out to isolate the compound that was responsible for this antibacterial property. A year later, in 1929, he finally published his work for the first time. Another 10 years, in 1939, before Oxford scientists took on the project of purifying and stabilizing this compound. It wasn't until the United States entered World War II before large-scale pharmaceutical companies in America picked up the project to help grow it on a mass scale. Even then, it wasn't until 1949 when penicillin became widely available to the general populace. That's a 20-year difference between the discovery and the distribution of penicillin. Alright, history lesson over. A lot of people think that discovery and innovation happens in a vacuum. Steve Jobs didn't just walk into his garage on a foggy Tuesday morning in June of 2007 and walk out on Wednesday with a fully formed iPhone. Nikola Tesla, a man who was accredited with inventing the modern age, didn't walk into his lab every day thinking, I'm going to invent the modern age. He started by thinking, I want to get electricity from here to here without a wire, and he was only able to accomplish that after years of studying electrical engineering and physics. This is to say, discovery doesn't happen overnight. Another example we use is, just because the bard rolls really high on their persuasion doesn't mean that the king is just going to give his throne over to him. The same way, the wizard shouldn't be able to roll really high on investigation and learn everything about the universe. If you have an interest in running with high roll equals benefit, then maybe some specific situation plus ones or plus twos here or there, or advantage on something special. But I think that scientific discovery even more lends itself to plot. The wizard spends hours in their time researching magical spells, or the druid looks through the microscope. And so they get an inclination, they get an understanding of something small. And now they have a subplot. They have a different type of story arc. It'd be a really great jumping off point for giving them something to spend all that gold that they've acquired through adventuring on. It would give them something to do as a downtime activity. You can only narrate so many bar crawls. And it would give them an opportunity to serve the community in a greater way than just killing dragons. New adventures could be had because the player has a great idea. You know, green dragons are immune to poison damage. Maybe if I could get some of their blood, I could study that and... Hey, DM. It gives your players a reason to investigate the lore that you've created, and gives them an opportunity to help you create more. I imagine since they have poison in their body, their blood would have to have something already in it to eliminate the toxin. Beyond the hack and slash combat encounters of D&D, of killing the monster to collect its body parts, you could also use it as a social encounter. NPCs coming to them in desperate need of a cure for this disease. Government officials who need to be convinced to help distribute it to the public. Rivals who want to discredit them and shut down their operation. I think it'd be cool to start the next campaign after that with the PCs being research assistants to the ex-adventurer, now humanitarian scientist. So there you have it, that's the video. If you want some takeaways, 1, to become better D&D players, we really have to think about what we're coming to the table for. And wanting to win is not bad, but wanting to beat our friends is maybe not what we should be looking towards. And 2, science is really its own adventure. My name is Sam. I've been a DM for many years now, and I love playing D&D, I love talking about D&D, and this is just some of the things I think about. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content, subscribe to our channel and keep up with what we're doing here at Dungeon Bros. We are also on TikTok and Twitter at Dungeon Bros YT. And we have a Discord that we would love for you to join. A place to share your thoughts, send us memes, ask us questions. Links for all of that will be in the description. We'll see you next time.